For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you a bit of a review video on a brand new awning, a new brand from Telta. So Telta have basically a new brand for the marketplace, and essentially they are they've got a bit of history behind them. We've done a separate video kind of talking about Telta and what it necessarily offers, but it's a brand that's basically almost like an English-Danish mix, sort of designed really is about offering something that's breathable, reliable, quick and easy to pitch, and from designs can replicate a certain brand already in the marketplace. So the history behind basically Talta is they've had about 40 years in the sort of background industry, being in various companies. They are basically of the same family that created a very big brand who made the first inflatable awning mass market, beginning with K. And really this is kind of the next evolution since that said company got acquired. So it's all about something that's great sizes, good quality, breathable more importantly, so you get sort of less condensation that reacts better to all the kind of climates, and you've got a durability built into it. And arguably there's a lot of tweaks and sort of adjustments to this that has basically been wanted to be made for a number of years. So what kind of Talta really done is created what they believe to be kind of the ultimate awning, trying to maximise maybe feedback from customers and then consumers to kind of give people exactly what they're asking for. So what we've got here, we'll start at the start and go through the range itself. With me here I've got the Talta Pure. The Talta Pure is available in 3 different widths. So we've got a 260, 330 and 390. It's a standard depth of 2.5 meters. Again, perfect for just having something that's a bit big enough without being too big. And generally it's a slightly different twist and design to it that necessarily kind of feels bigger than it is. The thing that certainly impressed me with the Pure in comparison to other similar sized awning from different brands is the sheer height inside of here. I'm about 6'2", and the front panel is so vertical it does make it feel bigger. Naturally with kind of the way it looks and feels, it's very premium in terms of quality, and what Talta have been really kind of conscientious to do is try and create that ultimate fabric. So the fabric itself is really nice, a beautiful kind of breathable material, design that can be left up for a short period of time or lengthy stays as well. It basically is kind of more seasonal kind of material. The difference being is that what they've really tried to do is they've tried to find a fabric that has that breathability but not without necessarily the weight. So what you'll find is actually the awnings in general with the Pure, for example, are about 20% lighter than its comparable model. So if I'm looking at this one with the 260 Pure, if you compare it, say, to the Dometic 260 Rally, it's about 20% lighter in weight. Now, if you also compare it to, say, the normal kind of touring material, it's going to be around about 10% heavier in weight. So all in all, it's only 10% heavier than a kind of touring awning, but you get breathability, you get the ability of a general stronger system, plus the fact that you get less condensation. It's going to be cooler on a warm day, but also kind of warmer on a cold. Quieter in the wind because you haven't got that sort of synthetic kind of flappy noising, and generally it's got a longer lifespan, so you expect it to last 2 or 3 times the length of kind of a touring awning. So this is where kind of they've really worked hard to make sure that you've got something that is still not very weighty and bulky, but you get all the benefits of it for an extra 10%, more for the weight itself. And of course, what you can do is actually, again, reduce the overall weight of the main awning by removing the side panels and also the front panel. So it means that all you're really going to do is pull through the roof and obviously the inflatable frame in there. You can then more than happily inflate it up, sit the panels in afterwards, and then, of course, in any ways, buy a separate bag, store the side panels and the front panels along with the pump and the pegs separately. So I mean, you've got 2 bags that are much more manageable rather than having one big lumpy bag. Admittedly, the bag you get supplied with it is kind of oversized, so you haven't got to be an expert at packing it away. You can see from my own kind of Attwoolls pitch and packing video, I pitched this very model on my own in the best part of, I think it's 8 minutes, with the manual pump that comes supplied with it. You've got a single inflation point located here, but at the bottom of every single beam doesn't matter if it's a 260, a 330 or a 390, you've then got a deflation point either end. It's worth mentioning that the inflation point is also the deflation point. So here you've got what we call a Boston valve, so same kind of value you get on an airbed. So you would screw it in obviously to inflate it, and you will make sure that all the other valves are sort of switched off. And then to deflate, you actually screw the bigger part of the valve out, and we've done separate videos on that as well you can check out. But like I say, it's a valve that everyone's very, very familiar with from that point of view. Naturally, again, it packs away nice and easily, as previously mentioned. So I think I put the whole awning away in about sort of 4 or 5 minutes, which means it's it's brilliant for those shorter weekend stays, but also you get the benefit of having it for that longer span if you really wanted to. The Pure is a little bit of a different design, and one thing I do quite like, certainly in the 260 size, is the fact there is no central beam here. So it's a nice wider span. Really nice and structurally secure still, but you get pure window panel, and then it means that naturally the internal side feels a bit more spacious because you're not allowing for an internal beam. As previously mentioned, you can get it in a 330 or a 390 width, depending on what you really wanted to, and then the 330 and 390 width will have a central beam like so. Due to the kind of unique kind of design of the Pure is the fact that actually, like I said, we've got a very kind of boxy frame. The beams are really nice and chunky, and generally what actually Talta have worked really hard to do again is change the actual casing that actually houses the tube. Now what they've done is they've changed to a basically nylon material rather than what a lot of brands do, which is a kind of a polyester mix. And the nylon's a bit stronger in terms of stability, so it's going to give you a longer lifespan as well as also give you more security that it's all going to last in terms of its durability. Additional storm straps are located on either side, can be purchased additionally, and again, I think they're around about, they're not very much for a pair. You can check out the website with more information on that as well, but the ones on the front here are included as standard. It's designed that you can peg the base of the awning out along with the side and get additional tension. From a pitching point of view, what you've really got to do is merely feed it through the rail, peg the back 2 corners down as close as you can to kind of the caravan itself to try and really help to get that seal. And then from that point there, you merely inflate it up. Once it's inflated, what I would then do is peg the front 2 corners nice and square so it looks really sharp. And then finally what you've then got is kind of we'll call it like a teal kind of colour triangle point that you peg that next. And it's designed so that it stops the front beam going too far forward and keeps it all nice and straight, and again a bit more structurally strong. From that point then, you can peg it whichever way you want to. The front door is really quite nice and versatile, and it depends on kind of which model you're looking at. If you look at sort of the 330 and 390 models of the Pure, the door can open from sort of right to left or left to right, so you can roll it back and have it kind of like a halfway house. Naturally, because there's no beam located in the middle for the 260 size, you pretty much haven't got that flexibility. You can actually, to be fair, roll it kind of all the way to the side if you want to, but there's not really anything to hold it in place. Instead, what you can do is you can actually zip it up vertically, and what that will actually do is actually then bring out like a little canopy. I'll show you that in a second, but before I do that, you've also got the ability to make the front panel into kind of a veranda. So you've got nice kind of easy to grip hold zip pullers. It means even when you've got, say, gloves on in the winter, it makes it a bit easier to go through. You can drop that panel nice and neatly over there, and you can, of course, buy a veranda pole just to give that really nice overall kind of structure. Again, what we can do, we can zip that panel vertically up, and then we've got little toggle points located on the very top of the awning. So if we, he says, unpeg the bottom, we're going to create that little kind of canopy that I was previously mentioning. So what you would necessarily do is undo that zip from the bottom upwards, take it just up to the corner on either side. What you would have to do is buy some additional king poles. Traditionally, kind of king poles or canopy poles do come kind of with extra guy ropes as well, which would be required. I have to move the curtains out of the way because the way I've done this. And Velcro on the bottom. And then use the same ladders that you're using to peg it through to then put the spike directly onto that point, and then that from there can create a nice little canopy just to give you a bit more additional space. So that again is a unique feature with the Pure model itself, which again sort of makes it a little bit more versatile, and you are not having to pay extra for any additional kind of canopy on it itself. And again, it zips all down nice and neatly. I'll tie that up a little bit later. I'll tell you what, let's kind of actually go inside the Pure and talk through a load more features that actually we've got on offer. So now inside kind of the Telta Pure, you can probably appreciate the overall sort of internal size you've got in here. And as we were talking about on the outside, that sort of 2.5 metre depth is actually a standard depth, but kind of generally feels bigger just naturally due to kind of the overall shape and design of the air system. First thing, like I said, we talk about is that height of the front beam. Me being 6'2", can stand up pretty much near enough dead underneath that beam as well, which also means that everything's a lot further close to the front wall, so your higher sort of chairs and stuff can come a lot further forward, giving you more space necessarily behind them into kind of the main sort of caravan gangway, as you see. Obviously, one thing you can also see as well is the sheer amount of lights you've got in here. Beautiful, clear PVC windows gives great sort of visibility, and we've got our kind of traditional style caravan curtains as well, which you can obviously get the privacy as or when you wanted to. Another point I would like to mention actually is kind of the material they're using on the curtains is more of a much more natural and nicer fabric. It doesn't feel like some sort of shower curtain, and again, it's all about keeping that kind of premium feel to kind of the Talta awning itself. And again, runs on a runner. And the thing I do also like as well is that the caravan curtain itself is stitched onto the panel rather than onto the awning itself. So it means that when you're actually sort of packing away products, you can leave them actually pre-attached on there, provided there's not sort of too much moisture itself as well. A little retainer is located down the end. It's a kind of a normal sort of loop. So all you do is basically put it directly through, just to kind of keep it all neat and tidy at the bottom. One thing you've got as well is there are a little kind of clips located in the bottom, just to make sure it stays in the right position and keeps it a little bit tighter to the main part of the front panel. And obviously it depends on which size you go for to which size, how many sort of front panels you necessarily get. On the side panels, we've got the same idea with the curtain located on here. I've not put it on this panel initially, but what we also have here is very much like kind of a 70-30 door. So 70% window, 30% door, and built into the door itself, you've also got a mesh panel. So that's going to help increase airflow. We've got airflow at the top here as well, which is really quite nice to help air circulate itself. And one of the key features also to mention about kind of the whole range of Talta awnings is they are not only to fit caravans, but also can fit motorhomes as well. So there's a clever little sizing arrangement where actually there's a zip located on the external side of it, which you can undo to increase the height which it attaches onto. So this one awning, in obviously various in size, be it a 260, 330 or 390, can fit any kind of vehicle from 235 all the way up to 280. So what kind of Talta have done is a one size fits all. There's no kind of a small, medium or large. It's literally just, that's the size. Most, probably about 90, maybe 95 or 90, even 98% of probably motorhomes are going to be in that range of 235 to 280 when it comes to the attachment point anyway. So it's still predominantly given the mass market of what you can actually fit it onto. As previously mentioned as well, all the side panels are completely removable, so the sides and also the front panel, to reduce the overall weight. And one key feature again in terms of the design of this kind of Talta Pure awning is having wider main panels. So what this actually is doing is actually mean that you'll have a easier access in and out of the caravan awning. But more importantly, it means that, for example, when you've got when you're walking out, the panel height is a lot taller, so you're not having to essentially stoop directly in. Admittedly, me being 6'2", probably just going to stoop, but in comparison to what it is, that's a massive, massive difference. The panels again can be interchangeable with one another, so you can remove this panel and put it on the other side. Now, what that's going to achieve, it means it's going to move the actual door placement to the front of the awning rather than at the back next to the caravan. So if your caravan door is in a corner, you haven't got to open the caravan door, shut it to go out the physical door itself. So by rotating those round and interchanging them means you can come out your caravan door and straight out the front section again. So you've got the flexibility to kind of make it as you want it to. Other things to point out is there's little details that I do quite like. So we've talked briefly about kind of all the pullers are kind of oversized, a slight little grip to them and getting branded in the Talta kind of logo, or even the points that retainer points for doors and that sort of stuff are really nice sort of PVC material, so you can feel it's a really nice sort of durable point. Naturally, we've got a single inflation point to the Talta awning, so your inflation point goes up here and then distributes itself throughout it. It's quite clever in the way they've done it. So they've got a really nice oversized beam with that kind of nylon sort of outer casing to reinforce it. But what you also necessarily see is you don't see the joins between the beams. They've got a very clever little Velcro system, so it just Velcros over one another. So it looks like one solid beam, but you've still got the ability to take parts out. Every single point where it necessarily connects to one another, you've got an isolation tap, and there's a very clear on and off sort of twist system. Again, branded in the Talta way, so it means that each beam can be then individual. So God forbid you did have an issue, you can obviously, once it's fully inflated, isolate it all off. That way, if there's a problem, it's located as a single beam rather than the whole necessary system, which all you can then do is twist, well, obviously, beam will be deflated. You can just undo it like a garden kind of tap kind of system, take the beam out, unzip it. You'll have a clear PVC bladder which you can replace or repair and pop it back into place quite nice and neatly. So the whole system's designed that really it's very kind of idiot proof to replace if God forbid there is a general issue with it. Other points as well is I do like the fact that you can get not a wide range of extras, but it's compatible with a lot of extras. So one of the extras is a veranda pole, which will fit any of the awnings, but not only does it do essentially the front as a veranda, but can also do the side as a veranda, or failing that, it can also be a hanging rail from front to rear. So naturally it's a multi-purpose item which you can chop and change depending on how you want to. So you could have up to, say, 3 poles for one awning. One for the front panel, depending on which model, of course. 2 for the side. One could be, say, for a coat rail. The other could be, again, for a veranda. So again, it's really nice and flexible from that point of view. It means that you haven't got to buy different poles to do the same job. One thing I would recommend is this rear upright pole. So the rear upright pole comes as a pair, designed to press this really nice oversized foam pad directly against the Caravan or motorhome, just to give you a bit more sort of sealants against the drafts. There are also pre-punched kind of holes located in the skirt, which allow you to buy some additional suckers, which again we'll put up nicely and neatly on there. It can be various ranges depending on what you want to go for. A draft skirt comes supplied as standard with the awning itself, but a wheel arch cover would be additional because it depends if you've got, say, a single axle or a twin axle. Other things that you get a standard of course is a manual stirrup pump. Really nice oversized pump. You may have saw it briefly earlier. It's got actually a much taller kind of handle sort of riser point, and it's kind of quite a low resistance pump, so you can keep going and going and going. It's not too bad. Of course, there is the option you can buy an electric pump if you want to sit back, press a button and let it do all the work for you. Other points to bring out as well is you've got optional things of nice breathable flooring, roof linings, and again it's one size fits all when it comes to that. The roof lining is quite a nice little difference as well, because even though it's a breathable material, the roof line actually clips into place rather than, say, toggles. So for me, from putting it in and putting out, it's a much more simplistic process and easier to do than having to worry about feeding toggles through, especially when you've got tension from the actual roof liner itself. I'll tell you what, let's kind of actually pick the camera up and we'll have a little bit of wander around, talk through a few more features up close and personal. So, okay, so as we can see, we're talking about the depth itself. The thing also I do quite like is the fact that the overall height in here is really quite nice. Beams are designed that essentially it creates a higher point, so even for motorhomes, when you open the door, you've still got a good clearance above that. Located at kind of the top, as we can see with the kind of poles, you've got a sleeve that goes into. This point here velcros down, so when you do extend it up, this will have to unvelcro, and you've still got little points so you can actually fit that really nicely tightly and get that seal against the side there. PVC mud walls all along the bottom, so again, a bit nice and durable, and we've got little sort of kind of flag stitch in the reinforcement points on the all pegging points. As standard, you get a load of ladders supplied with it, again, to kind of keep it really nice and tidy. But again, the beam structure, we've got the isolation taps located just like so, and you can, like I say, can't even see where it kind of velcros over, so it's a really kind of flush point, and generally looks really quite nice and smart. There's also Velcro tabs located here as well, so if you wanted to put some additional lighting tubes in, you can do that, and in the various places you can fix it. So not only can you put it on the front, but there's also some located down the side, even if you have to run the cable directly down to your main kind of central point. As we kind of come outside, we can probably see that initial vent externally, so it's always got a cover to it. And actually this sample is a pre-production sample, but the zip located on the side here, so this is the zip that you would necessarily open to extend it up. It's been located a little bit higher, so really you won't necessarily see it. It means the side itself will be a bit taller as well. The idea behind it is if you open the zip once, it will extend the range 15 centimeters. If you open the second zip behind that, it'll extend it 30 centimeters. So like I said, it's got 30 centimeter increments. So you either have it, say, from 235 to 250, open another zip, 250 to 265, open the final zip, it's 265 to 280. But sits really nicely. Storm straps help it, so I would recommend those for certain. You've got a dual pitch roof to it as well, so it's not only going to increase the height, but the double pitch roof helps with water drain off as well, so you're not getting water necessarily pooling on the outside itself. And again, we can see how well that sits, and we've got the little pump located directly at the front. The recommended pressure for the whole awning is 9 psi, but the whole system's been tested much more than that, so you haven't got to worry about overinflating it. And to be fair, even with the the manual pump, you'll struggle to do that. The manual pump itself is also worth pointing out that what you will find is that it only gives you a reading on a very sort of slow downstroke. Just because it's the way the valve is necessarily designed. So it is something you can sort of look at additionally. So electric pump, like I say, you get a bit more accuracy with the overall pressure with it. But generally, I was talking about earlier about the overall size of it. Again, you can see how much that kind of comes off it nice and easy. So you can get a really nice downward stroke and then read the dial as it necessarily goes down to get that full pressure. I think that's pretty much everything quite comprehensively about the Telta. If you have more questions or queries or even concerns, feel free to comment in the box below the video. Failing that, there's a link below the video itself, which will take you straight through to the product itself, along with obviously all the sizes that are on offer, including the optional extras as well. But I think all in all, I think it ticks a big box for me. It's something that's really quite nice and a bit different in comparison to kind of the normal runners. For me, I think over the next few years, we will definitely see Talta become more of a kind of established brand in the marketplace. So it's quite nice and quite exciting to kind of be on board with this brand early on in kind of their little span. But by all means, like I said, check out our pitching and packing video as well. And also we talked more about kind of the Talta brand in a separate video. But generally, that's kind of our video review on the, like I said, very exciting new Talta Pure range. So we've got the 260, the 330 and the 390. It's almost worth mentioning actually briefly, there is a driveway version for motorhomes, which we will do a separate video on eventually. But yeah, so really nice options, fixed awnings, great flexibility and plenty to ramble on about, so sorry for talking so much. But that's kind of our little video review. Hopefully we'll see you again in the next video, but from us for the time being, thank you very much and thank you again.